Good morning, everybody, and welcome back to 100 Days of Code with me, Lily Code. So today what we're doing is we were picking up from looking at our Firebase application that we had set up with our cart slice and our UI slice in a previous version. And I did figure out what was going on there. So what was happening was I had done some of it previously. Then I got confused about the Firebase setup. Then I went off on a tangent. And did a few other bits. So first of all, I started looking into Firebase. Then I think I went off and just started doing Kubernetes then, because Kubernetes come up. This was back in the 30s, day 30s. So over a month ago now, which is absolutely hilarious and brilliant. Really brilliant. So we're back anyway. We're back again. We're looking at Redux. We're looking at state management in React with Redux. And we're picking back up where we left off all the way back there. But I had got videos where I had done the preliminary start, like just a little bit of this code. So they'll be linked in the description box down below. And once I start going off on the tangent about Firebase, don't worry about it. I'll link the videos that are relevant. It's not from 30 right the way up, because then I went on a few tangents in the middle. So we will continue on from this Firebase, Redux and React project. So I'm going to CD into my folder. So it's code and 02 that I want to CD into, because we have already done this beginning bit of code. And I was getting confused myself, because I jumped around a bit, and then I was doing it and I was like, hold on a minute, I've done this. And then I was like, I didn't want to be recording the same video twice either. If I've already done it, I've already done it. So we're picking up where we left off and we're continuing on, which makes the most sense to me. So oh, it was all over the place yesterday trying to figure out what was going on. Like, the hour video took me not an hour. It didn't take me an hour, but I've made a commitment now today. I'm not pausing. I'm going to just get the hour done. So if there's some natural pauses, well then that's how the hour is going, because I've gotten a habit of, if things are going a bit slow or something, I'll pause it. But sure, then you could be being paused for God knows how long, and the day is dragging on and you still haven't got your hour done. So I think that needs to stop now, and just get in and get the hour done, because you have to be. Sometimes if I come across an error or something, I don't want to be there flapping for too long. So I think, right, I'll pause it and then I'll just come back in with the answer, which is a good approach as well, but it doesn't really take me that long anyway. And it's all part and parcel of the process. But just if I'm looking at the code, not really, you can't see me actively doing anything. I'm just looking through the code, trying to see what's wrong or get an indication of what the error might be. That's not really fun for anyone, I didn't think, but I just end up pausing it then for too long and going off on tangents, really. So I just need to stick with the hour and get the hour done. So that's what I'll be doing. And here we go. So we're just doing our npm audit fix here. This is a command that has been recommended for us from npm, because once it's spun up, so with each project, with a React project, even with an Angular project, you get this package.json file. If you're going to use Yarn as your package manager, you'll have a Yarn file as well. So we have this package.json file, which has and this has been mentioned many times, but you know what, I'm just explaining things as I go. So, and this is loading, so I might as well go into a bit of detail on this. But if you've heard it loads of times before, I do apologize. For anybody new, welcome. Have a little look at this. So we have this package.json file, which contains all the packages that we want to use within our application. And these are basically linking two packages that are stored on the internet that do some things for us, that make building out our application easier. So, here we can see we've imported Redux. We want to use Redux for our state management, for app-wide and across component state management. So we're going to use that package and pull in all of that functionality without having to actually add all of that code into our project, what Redux actually does, because Redux is a big old package, you know, it has lots of, well, I'm not sure how big it is, maybe on the scale of packages it could be a small package, but it's a whole load of extra code anyway that does a very specific function, and that does not need to bloat our own package, so our own application. So we just link out to them, and then once we run npm install, and then sometimes when you run npm install, then to install all of the packages in your package.json, you literally just come down to your terminal. At the root of your project, you have to be in the root, you have to be at the same level where the package.json is. So if I go dir, just to see what's at this level here now, I can see my package.json. So that is very, very, very important. If you're not at the right level, it will not find the file and you'll get a load of errors. Took me ages to figure that out in the beginning, because you just don't really be thinking of those things. You're like, I see the file, you know, why isn't it working? And then after, you know, failed attempts, you realize how important it is to be in the right, you need to be running it from the right level in your directory, which just takes time. You know, you do it a couple of times, you won't make the mistake again, but then you might forget for a little while, like in the beginning when I was first coding, and then you're back again, you're scratching your head, this was working yesterday, I haven't got a clue, you're going in circles, and then when you find out an hour later, you were just in the wrong level of your project directory. So when you are running this, if you get any errors, do a dir or an ls on a Mac, check what's in the current folder where you are. So I'm in code 02, and this is the root of my project. I have my source folder here, which contains all of the files of my project, my public folder, which is just things that are like stored for public access, so the index file, which is what everything, like all the information in a HTML file, it's where it all boots up from. We boot up from our app, but I must have a similar you know, role here, that you need the index file to be able to point to where is this application starting from, and then just some of the images and the icons. The fav icon is the icon that goes up in the tab of your browser, so I will show you that now in a moment. So now we'll do npm start. So basically you need to be in the right at the right level in order to run your npm install, which installs all the packages from your package.json, and once it's done that, it creates this node modules folder, and what's in the node modules folder is the compiled versions. I think that's the right terminology, but basically it just spins up all of these packages that are in the package.json in like a smaller file size than will be actually required if you were to just copy over all of that code. So it's keeping your projects leaner. You just have a reference there to the code that you can still use and do things with, but you don't need to have all of Redux's code in here, because Redux does a lot of things. It's a project in itself, so you don't need a second project in your project to use these functionalities. You can go to npm online or Yarn as well if you want to use Yarn as a package manager, but I don't want to confuse you, they're the same thing. So you use one or the other. Either you're using Yarn or else you're using npm. You don't use both. As far as I know, I don't know any cases where you use both. I've only ever used one or the other. So you use one or the other would be my advice. In 4 years, that's how I've done it. I've used one or the other. So very true. Yeah, npm is a great project. Product, I should say. And I love this. When you click the little heart, it gives you random. I love that. Nope. Prefer mopeds. Me too. Can you guys see this? Because it's just fabulous. So like this is the npm documentation here, and when you click this, it just gives you random things that npm could stand for. What it actually does stand for is Node Package Manager, Nuclear Pizza Machine. Sounds dangerous. Don't bring that pizza near me. I'm having a salad today. So yeah, so we're in here now, and if we just have a look, let's just have a look for time. You can get packages for just about anything. You can get them to make graphs. So here's moment.js. Moment.js is a great package, used it many times. This allows you to use JavaScript using time in JavaScript because of the way it's, used in the actual format of time, which is, I don't know, to so many decimal places, or I don't know, but time in JavaScript is notoriously tricky. Just when you start trying to do things with the time, it gets tricky. So there's these sort of packages that have been created which just make your life easier for you. So you can come in here, here's documentation, and you can do loads of different things, So this will allow you to make your time management easier. So here we go, we have day.js is a minimal replacement for moment. So I just want a few examples here, guys. So here we go. So first of all, you want to using moment node. Okay, yeah, so you just say that you want to require it, and then you can do different things like, so yeah, here you go, you can get the current time for the language that you're currently supporting. So say if you have different languages in your project, it does loads of different things. So it can calculate, 2 days from today. It can calculate what's 4 hours if you have an input box on your website, and the input box is for booking an appointment with somebody, and the appointment slots have to be of at least 30 minutes. You can't book a 15-minute appointment slot, for example. Moment.js can help you put out that logic to say time must be of a minimum of 30 minutes, and you do it with sort of simple commands. So like moment, now this is just a total example, done this a long time ago, but it was just the first idea that popped into my head. So this is totally just a guess, and a wrong guess, but just to give you an idea. So you could have something like moment, current time, time of appointment, and then let's stick with moment current time. So you have a first variable, moment current time, then you have a second variable, moment current time plus 30 minutes. And it's literally as simple as that, you know what I mean? You pull up a method that's inbuilt into moment, you add 30 minutes to your current time, and then you have these two time points that you can use in your project to make sure that appointments are of at least a 30-minute window. Whereas if you're trying to do that without any package manager tool and you're just trying to do it with JavaScript, my guess is you might be there for a while. So there's loads of different packages in there. So that's basically what the package manager is. I hope that little introduction was helpful. I hope that introduction was helpful. As I said, there's no more pause in the videos because, I might have been like, God, I need a cup of tea after that now. Did I explain that well at all? I'll go and have a cup of tea. No, I'm only joking, guys. But, so we'll continue on here now. So I'm in a very giggly mood today, and that's okay. I hope you are giggling along with me, because if you're gonna giggle, I say just giggle away, because it's a blessing, really, isn't it, to have a giggle? Isn't that what we all want? It's what I want anyway. Oh yeah, definitely. Just enjoy what you can. Laugh away. It's all good in the hood. So we're continuing on here now. I best get some work done. Oh, okay, so here we are. Let's just figure out what's going on here now. So, okay, so Max has just come straight into Firebase. What? Okay, so I better watch. He's doing something now with Firebase. Base. Okay, so we just have to keep in mind that reducers, which we use when we're using Redux state management, must be pure, side effect free and synchronous functions. So they cannot be asynchronous functions. They can't have any side effects, and they must be pure. So we'll find out how to make a function like this just now in an exact second. That's what we're getting to, so stay tuned. Yeah, so if we have any asynchronous code, it can't go into our reducer functions, which makes sense. They can't have asynchronous code. Well, it just makes sense because we've just been told that, but now it makes sense. Yeah, we can't add in any we can't add asynchronous functions into our reducers. That's it. Yeah. Yeah, okay. Cool. So just to give you an example, guys, so if we go in here to our cart slice, and here we have our reducers. So we have our reducers which are doing different actions for us. So our cart slice is what is managing the state of our cart for us, and our cart is over here. We have a new cart now. This was set up in a previous day, back in day 30 something. Link will be in the description box down below. And we have these reducers functions in here, which is leveraging from Redux in order to give us state management across our application. So this is where we could not have an asynchronous function. So we couldn't have a fetch in here now. That's not allowed. They must be only on asynchronous code. Synchronous code has to be what a reducer is all about. There cannot be asynchronous code. So where you're waiting on something to come back, which is very specific. An API call or something promises, you know, if this doesn't really make sense, don't worry about it because you're probably not using them. It's when you're getting something back from a backend or from a database, and you know, and if you're going to use asynchronous code, they always have, like, they can have a dot then where you're doing something after if it's a promise, or you're going to have like literally the keyword async. So, you know, don't worry, oh, I don't want to do this by mistake. You probably won't if you're thinking that. So we'll continue on because you just probably won't. Asynchronous code comes after all of the preliminary learning, really, for me anyway, and I think for anybody. You just don't get to it until you've got the basics down. So if you don't know what I'm talking about, don't worry about it. You probably won't accidentally do it, you know, like, most likely. Can't make any promises here, but I'm 99% sure. So yeah. So just listening to the video here, and as always, very important to stretch. I'm not just stretching because it's important, I'm stretching because I needed a stretch there. But have a stretch if you're at your desk. Have a stretch now, stretch with me. So arms up, just enjoy it, you know. I really feel the tightness in my hand when I do that. It's valuable. Okay. A few shoulder rolls, you know. We're getting down with the shoulder roll. We're getting down with the shoulder roll. All right, we're getting down. Why not, guys? Why not? Okay, so Max is still just chatting here. So am I, clearly. Okay. Okay, so we just need to figure out how to add a product to the cart. And we'll transform the data into the configuration we want it to be sent, and then we'll send it to the backend. So now we're going to have a look at where is the best place to put this code to transform the data that we want to send to the backend, so it can be sent to the backend in the most ideal configuration for us. So yeah, so because we literally cannot send our HTTP request in here in the reducer, we just have to think about where it is we want to send it. So, and where's the best place to send it, and to transform the data into the correct configuration that we want it to be sent to the backend in. So you know, maybe ID, price, quantity, total price, name, something like this. And anyway, we can't just add a fetch statement in here, we can't do it in here, but we need to make sure that we have the data in the right format. So maybe we still want these different properties, but maybe we don't. Maybe we want, you know, just a price rather than the total price or whatever. So we need to figure out how we want the data to be sent and then where we want it to be sent, because it cannot be sent here in the reducer. And this is where our add item to cart function is. So when we're adding an item to a cart, we have all the information in here, but we can't just add a fetch in here. And the same for the remove. We already have all the data. So how are we going to properly move that data somewhere else and send it without affecting these reducers? That's what we're about to do. Cool. So where we can send it from is, if it's no good to send it from our reducers, which is part of, you know, when we're actually working with the state and stuff like that, why don't we send it from our component where we're actually calling this reducer? That seems like a good idea. So we'll go into our components here, and that's what Max is telling me to do. Like, I'm just made it sound a bit interesting, but he said we can send it from our component. So we'll go to our product item.js. Why don't we do that? Yeah. As if I made up the idea all by myself, but I am listening to Max here. So yeah, so we'll go to our product item.js, but that actually does make a lot of sense, because this is where we're calling that dispatch. This is where we're adding the items to the cart. We have information here about the item that we're adding. You know, this seems logical as well. So great, we cannot add it in a reducer. Where else is the propagation of information happening when we're adding something to the cart? Where else are we sending around that information? Where do we have access to the item that's being added to the cart? Makes sense. The component is a good place to start looking next. Cool. Cool. So what we can do is we can use useSelector. And when we use useSelector, I was just thinking, should I commit? Because then sometimes Max goes back and it's like, oh, that was a good example, but it wasn't the right way. Let's completely change everything and, you know, jump out a window. So he obviously doesn't say that, but sometimes he just completely switches everything up, and then I'm like, no, I should have committed before I just went down that rabbit hole. It's going back after you've changed a whole lot of files with no previous commit. Commit your code regularly, guys. Just seems to be a bit of a confusion. So here we've imported useSelector, and what we're going to do is get the current state of the cart with useSelector. And then once we have the current state of the cart, we can transform the data in our component here. So we get what's in the cart. For the new information that we're adding to the cart, we'll put it into the right configuration that we want within this component, in the product item component, the same way that we were doing in the cart slice, the way we're putting it in this particular configuration, that because this is how we want to send it to the backend. We need to do this somewhere else because we're going to have to send it somewhere else to the backend. So this is how we want the item to look. Actually, it's the ID, price, quantity, total price, and name. That's what we want to send back to the database to store about this product. So therefore, in here we can do that same thing here and get the cart, get the new item being added to the cart, put into that same configuration, a good configuration, and then we can send it to the back end. But we must be careful not to mutate the state, the original state. We have to leave whatever was in the cart before untouched. We can't accidentally, you know, go and change the structure of that's the cart. That's the way we have the cart operating, and we don't want to mutate the state, the current state. We just want to do something with the new object coming in. So that's what we're going to do. I'm just going to git add, give it a whirl, the whole lot. Let's go. So git add dot just adds everything, and we can see here I have 10,000 changes. Your girl don't know what's going on with the changes in the git, so we'll just leave that. But yeah, I still just want to commit everything, and that's been happening for a while. So anyway, I do have a whole load of projects in this same folder, all of Max's projects that we've been doing throughout this whole project. Rather than creating new individual Git repositories, I just added them all in. So I think they're big, but why when I just commit everything? Because I'm only committing everything from one of those projects. All the projects are being tracked. And there's some that I still haven't updated the changes on, perhaps. Okay, maybe that makes sense. Right, so we'll continue. It's not really that necessary. Okay. Okay, guys, so said I wouldn't pause, but I wanted a cup of coffee. Oh, in the beginning, I didn't pause at all. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. Look, you're allowed to take as long as you want for your hour. No, normally I do get it done quick enough, but sometimes if I have hours, anyway, there's no point going on. I made a cup of coffee, like. Oh, man. Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. Right, let's continue, guys. So Max is just telling us here about state management, excuse me. Right. So he's just showing us over here. Let's just git commit this and get these changes. It's not going to work, is it? Git commit, but at least this current project will be up to date. Chapter 19, baby, Redux. We are flying it. Although I think there's about 35 chapters in this project. I'd love to finish it for the 100 days. Sorry, I hope I'm not slurping away, but sure, if I am, go and pause me and go and grab a cup of tea and slurp with me. We'll slurp together. So if I go to my product item and so here shop product item, what is going on? Okay, so hold on. Okay, yeah, so my intuition was totally right. Max is about to jump ahead and just show us an example and then go completely back to something else. And the way he's shown us the example is he hasn't even typed it out in real time with us. He literally just said, so here's some code I didn't type out with you. So he's going to just show me a concept and then he's going to go back to the old the approach he's actually going to use. So I have to pause it and just get past this bit. Well, I could just sit here and watch it, but that's boring for you guys. But then I'm just here all day long because I keep pausing it on things I don't think are too exciting, which this is the 100 days of code, an hour a day, you know. What with the coffees and the coding takes 2 hours. Which is still okay, it's fine. But then just... Anyway, I love doing it. Thanks so much for joining me, guys. Do you know, I'm blessed, I'm privileged. Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Really appreciate it. Look, it's fantastic. It's absolutely fantastic. Okay. So basically all he's telling us here is, so I'll just do a little bit and show you an example of this. So if we had cart.totalQuantity in here, so say if in here in this product item we had cart.totalQuantity, which is accessing the total quantity, which is part of the total Why you can't spell today, Lee and Lily go total. So cart total quantity. Quantity. What's wrong with my fingers? Cart total quantity is equal to cart dot total. Let's go. There we go. Quantity. Oh, yes. Quantity dot. Oh, no. Add one. Yeah, of course not dot, because we don't have another nested. We don't have more nested properties within that object. We just have the one level total quantity within the cart. So there wouldn't be something else to access with dot. Just to say, but if we did something like this, this will be really, really, really bad, and do not do this. That's what he's saying right now, which is why we didn't actually code it out, because this is something you should not do. And the reason you should not do this is because in our Redux store, the total quantity is part of the Redux store, and you cannot just go and edit it in any other component directly like this. So we're taking the cart total quantity and we are directly updating it here, which is a big, big, big no-go. This isn't how you update the state of the Redux stuff. You just shouldn't do it like this. I don't even think you shouldn't even do it like this with just regular state. So that's why you have your state and then your function now. That's actually all clicking a little bit, so that's great. So if we have a constant here for just look, I'm just putting this together. I could be wrong, but I think I'm right, and earlier on I didn't go with my gut. I'm right. I'm going to say I'm right, and people can correct me if I'm wrong. So let's say I'm correct. So is visible, because I feel like I am, is visible, and then you have your set is visible function to set your variable. So you never just go and set is visible. You use the set is visible function. So there's a specific way how to update your state. So I think whether you're using Redux or React, you shouldn't interfere with the state of things. You need to use defined procedures and processes to carefully manage the state, because if you go altering the state of the main object, the thing that you're keeping track of, well, I guess everything could sort of just fall over, because what was your original state, you know, what's the current state, those things become but a glance in the distance. You don't know what's going on anymore, basically. So you need to use recommended ways of updating state. You don't just go around updating state like you would a normal variable. Very important when you're using state. That seems to be the underlying message here, so I'll keep watching. He said it's super bad code. Never mutate the state outside of a reducer. You need to use your reducers when you're using useState with Redux, and then when you're updating the state with Redux, I should say, and then when you're using useState, so this would be equal to useState. Then you use the function that's been given to you, that's in the destructured array here, the set is visible. So you don't just go and alter this is visible is equal to something else. You use the set to set that variable. Mm-hmm. Okay, so what he's shown us as well is he just added like a whole load of logic to this product item component that does the data transformation that's happening in this cart slice. So he has added code to this product item that we are not really privy to. He's just sort of going through it very quickly and explaining why this approach will work, but why it's not ideal. So basically what he has done is added all of this functionality, or a lot of it, that will allow transformation of the data into this new different type of object, like this is how we want the data to be laid out in order to push it to the back end. He's added that to the product item, and then he's using the state in the right way, and then which the right way is just assigning this to a new variable, and you need to use your reducer as well, so const, updated total quantity. And then in order to update it, you use the reducer, but you can't just go and access this thing directly. So updated TQ, total quantity. And but the problem with this approach is then as well, if you were to do it all in your product item, that every time you need to update your cart, you need to do all of that logic in all of the components that might want to access cart update. So really, I think what he's going to do, and the best solution is going to be, is to extrapolate out the correct approach. So we want to create a helper function that's going to put the data in the correct format for us. And then also with this helper function, then we want to create a new component that will hold this helper function, that will make sure the data is in the right format, but also update the state and things like that. So I think we're going to just extrapolate all of this out into its own component, which makes perfect sense. That's sort of how we should be doing things. Keep your components compartmentalized, keep the logic compartmentalized, and then you can reuse that. So if you have a component that's just making sure that the data is in the right format and updating the state when you want to add an item to the cart, that can be used wherever you might want to add an item to the cart. So you could have a product page on the first page of your website, and then you could have, a deals page, which is a different page with a different layout. But again, from the deals page, you can still add items to the cart. They're just on sale. So that's where I'd be going first. And from there, you can add your items into your cart. So both of those two components need to share this same logic. So I think that's going to be the solution. Okay. Sometimes you just get uncomfortable sitting all day, Feel like I need to stretch my butt. Really though. I might go for a little 5-minute walk after this. Then get started on some other things. Cool. So when are we going to implement this great new solution? We just spoke about things. Well, we didn't do anything there. So, okay, he was just speaking. Just want to make sure I didn't miss anything, because we're into the next video now, and sure, we haven't put finger to the keyboard. Do you know what I mean? It's about time we started tapping, for God's sake. So we'll just continue on here. So if I go to my app.js, I'll close off 4 because let's not get confused. No confusiado. Oh, and I'll also just made up that word. I'll also just remove these because these are not being used. They were just examples and they will probably break our code. So if we save now, yes, we did have some weird stuff going on. So on line 10, yeah, cool. So that should be okay now. Come on. Chipper and skipper, mate. Oh, I apologise for my terrible accents, but look, it gives me a laugh. Like, I know they're not good. I'm certainly not trying to be good at them. I'm just giving it a whirl, you know, for the crack. Just for the crack, guys. So, hope that's all okay with everybody. Oh, God. So, what we're doing here now, I'm sorry about the squeaky chair, but sure, look, I really need to WD-40 it. I've been saying that since day one. Oh, Lord. I'd be afraid people might think I have flatulence, but sure, look, it is what it is. We're all human, and it's the chair anyway, so, you know, just move on. I'm so sorry. This is a very distracting video. I hope you're getting... Oh, look, I'm going to just continue. It is what it is. This is how I'm feeling today. I'm a bit hyper. Maybe the coffee wasn't a good idea. But sure, that's fine, you know. That's fine. So we're going to continue on here. So in our app, we should have a fetch method. Where is he getting this from now? So, let's see. Okay, so let me just check out 3 here. Yeah, we need this fetch, and we did have this fetch already. We did get up to this point, so actually must have meant to run number 3, because we need that. And if we're missing just this function, we could be missing other functions as well. Yes, we had our show cart. We literally got up to this point yesterday, and then I was like, hold on a minute, I've done this before. And then it was like, right, let's just hook up from where we're going from, because we definitely did this before. So I did do this again before. Oh, maybe jumping around mid chapter was a bad move. I admit that now. In future, if I want to change chapter and find out something, like something comes up that I'd like to learn, I'm finishing the chapter. Obviously, that makes perfect sense. But I just thought, oh, it'll be easy to jump back in. Like, everything is ticked. It tells you exactly where you've got to. But then even finding the code, like, did I let the video run for an extra 2 minutes while I, you know, did some stretches or something and missed a bit of code, and then you come back and where it has saved your stopping point isn't actually your stopping point. Anyway, lesson learned, guys. If you're doing any sort of video tutorials and you want to go off on a tangent and do something else, or you have a requirement to do something else, I should say, should make it sound like I'm just here like going off on tangents all day. I had a requirement to go and learn a different thing, so that's what I did. So if you feel like, first of all, if something's just really annoying you and you'd like a break, go and learn something else. Do you know, you don't need to give up totally and just throw everything out the window. That wasn't my case, but that's a very valid reason for switching to something else. If you're currently building an Angular project and you've hit a complete wall, you know, don't just stop coding and throw it all out the window. Stop that project and go off and do something a bit easier, just to get your, you know, your interest peaked again, to get the blood flowing through your veins again. Go off and do a small little CSS project. Go and do some free code camp questions, you know, just to keep you in the game and keep the brain ticking over and keep the interest there and the motivation there, and keep the days going on. Because if you just hit a stopping point and you go off, they can end up being a week, 2 week breaks. Can be very hard to get back in. Just keep it going, guys. That's honestly my serious advice. So I'm going to CD here into code. Just writing code isn't good enough. We need to CD, and this needs to come up here so y'all can see what I'm doing. Don't know why I'm singing like that, but however. That was a bit risque if you ask me. So we'll just CD into code here, and then we will go into 03, our third project, because we need that function, and we definitely did that before. And then we will do, look, I literally didn't do anything today, although Max has been talking a lot as well. So look, that's the way the cookie crumbles. That is the way the cookie crumbles. I would have paused this normally for the whole video, and then the day is getting away from me and I have nothing done because, you know, Max is explaining things sometimes. So then we're going to do npm install because I'm pretty sure. Yes, so see here what I was going on about earlier. We don't have our node modules folder in here. So if I open up 02, here's our node modules folder. So 01 should be at this same level because we would have started chapter 19 and we would have made our way through to get to this point. But because I looked back at the videos last night and seen at the end of the video, I go off, I wasn't sure what was going on with Firebase. Now I think I know. I think I can solve this now. So what I think was happening was maybe I copied Max's URL and I need my own URL in there. So if I put my URL that I'm using in here, hopefully it'll work. And if not, we're back on another tangent. But that's fine. That's totally fine. It's the way of the game. So, you know, sometimes you just need to go off to solve something before you can continue with what you're currently doing. And especially when you're learning new things, haven't used Firebase in a while, it's not second nature, you know. I need to think about it. I need to go off on tangents to figure out what's going wrong. I can't just go, oh yeah, great, Firebase doesn't work, blah, 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 brilliant, away we go. I'm like, why doesn't it work? I better go to Stack Overflow. I better think about this. So it's not a tangent. It's the process. It's actually just the process. So anyway, we're in here in our chapter 3 folder, right? And you can see in here now we have our package.json file, which contains all those packages that are adding bits of functionality to our project without all the bloat of needing the whole thing, the whole code that actually would add this application. So with that then, when you have your package.json and you're using someone's new code, there's no point in pushing up this node modules. This is normally in your git ignore file, because why would you add that to git? You have all the information you need in your package.json to just spin this up, and it saves all of that information being added to git, which is just bloating git. And you know, there's no need to save it there because you can spin it up every time and your package versions might change and stuff like that. So, well, they're not going to change from pulling down the code from git. Whatever packages are there, but you might want to update them then and then push up your new package.json, the updated versions. It'll tell you if you have problems or anything like that, if something is outdated, like exactly what it's doing here. Look, happy topo. Happy topo. Oh, I like that. Happy topo, happy topo, happy topo, happy topo. I'm happy topo, 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 happy. Okay. That's enough. That was just great. Like, I just wasn't expecting to see happy topo. Like, what a package. Love it. So happy topo, this has been depreciated. No, I'm just laughing, sorry. So this has been depreciated. So it tells you here this has been depreciated. So if we really needed this, you know, I don't even know what happy topo does. Let's have a look. But basically, by running npm install, when you open up your project, you're creating them node modules folder. So we can see here now we have node modules, and that's still being created. It's not yet finished. So it's probably halfway through the project or something, you know, and it's still spinning up all of those all of those files. So we can therefore leverage the functionality that's stored in all of these different projects, packages, which someone else has wrote this code, which we can use in our own project, and it stops our project being massive because, you know, we would have to write all of that from scratch if we wanted this store management. How does Redux even do that? We're leveraging functions in Redux that have already been wrote that make it easier for us. So we can just say, Redux, help me use this package management, help me use this state management. I'm going to call this function, and Redux handles the rest, you know, which is the same for all the packages. They're handling a certain amount of the computation. So therefore the code has been wrote somewhere else and you're just pulling it in and using it, and you're using it in a smaller file format in the node modules. You just sort of have, when you create a dist folder, so when you're sending your code to a live server and you want to render it for people to be able to see from a URL, you don't put the whole project somewhere to be viewed by your user. You pull it all down into the smallest version it can be put into, which is your dist folder, and then from there then everything you need is sort of compiled down to the best format for communicating with the browser and stuff. So you don't need all these functions and all, like, you know, in their longhand way that our eyes would read it. It's converted into more computer code. So the node modules is more computer code, what the computer would understand, because we don't need to go in there and mess about and understand what's going on. We just need to have the documentation that tells us how to use the functions that that package provides, and then we write those functions, we use them, we leverage that functionality that's been given to us by installing this package, by using it, and then the node modules just contains a more computery version that the computer can understand, so the computer can give us these functions. So let's have a quick look. Like, okay, so that's pretty all right. Oh, that's all right as well. So, like, shipped proposals. Well, maybe I need something like, yeah, so here's some of the things it does. I think the library, yeah, and then the index.js, cool. So if you wanted to use, this actually looks codey enough. Okay. So I still don't think it's like, I mean, imagine if you wanted to use this plugin proposal JSON strings from Babel. You know, you have to write all of this in your project. So it saved you writing all this, and instead you can just call the replace function and pass it these things, and it's doing all of this computation for you. So that's sort of what I'm getting at, you know. Although this doesn't look too computery, I still thought like it wasn't as readable in here. Like, I still think this has been shortened a bit. You're not just pulling in the whole all these projects when you run your package.json, are you? Are you building it like properly? This looks proper. So maybe it's not actually a shortened version. Maybe when you build your package.json, you're building these like fully. It's just pure JavaScript, it looks like, though. So it's not React, it's pure JavaScript, I think. Because here we have useStrict. So if you only had experience with React, then you might find it a little bit difficult to make your way around here. And JavaScript is what the browser communicates with, so that is the best language for the browser. So actually, I think that makes perfect sense. Yeah, it's not going to convert it to bits, zeros and ones. You know, I have been in here before, so I don't know why I didn't just know that. But I guess until you actually think about something and you start trying to think, how does this all add up? That's when it sort of clicks for you. So this seems to be pure JavaScript. Yeah. So okay. So these are actually huge. This is a full JavaScript project going on here. Like, look, this is just Babel, and look at how much we're only in P. We're only down at P. So like, there's a lot of code that you do not have to write if you want to use something like Babel, which I think Babel is something got to do with languages or something. Let's check what Babel is. Babel. What is Babel again? It's something got to do with languages. Oh, don't tell me I'm mixing two completely different things. Babel, Npm. What do we use it for in Npm? Babel. Oh no, it's got nothing got to do with languages here. Maybe. So Babel puts a soft cushion between a web application and the many cool new file formats developed for use with Node.js, such as CoffeeScript, Sass and Jade. So it does help you with languages. Yeah. Okay, cool. So whoever made that other Babel thing to actually learn spoken languages like Spanish, German, French must have had some coding experience and leveraged the idea from the package Babel, or the other way around. But I think Babel came first. This came first before the language thing. But they're both just helping you manage languages. Yeah. Okay. Right, so anyway, I hope that was a bit of an introduction into, like, well, we were just waiting for our package file to run, and rather than pause and waste time, I just kept going and had a chat instead. So, so now we'll do npm start. We could run npm autofix because it is telling us to do that, but I don't care. I'm going to just continue and do npm start because I'd like to start. And I think it's going to spin up anyway. So I don't have any other things running. I'll just close this for the minute. I don't think it was hooked up because I don't seem to have any other terminal windows running. But even in saying that, I will just close my browser window. Although if I still had it running in a terminal somewhere, just closing the window wouldn't be enough. It would still tell me, like, I literally have this running somewhere and it's ready to be opened on the browser regardless of whether or not the browser window is open. So the more important thing was to check it wasn't running, and even if it was already running, it would just say this is already running at port 3000, would you like to open it on another port? And then I just say sure, thanks, or go and find the other instance where it's running and close that if, for example, we still had version 2, chapter 2 of this project running. So coola boola. Great. So now, let's go. We've got 5 minutes, 4 minutes to get something done. So, first thing I'm going to do actually is replace. Let's close everything down. We've been working on different projects. We're a bit all over the place here now. So then we have our chapter 3 open. I'll close my node modules. We do not need to be looking at that. That was just for the chats. And then here we can see our fetch statement, which is wrong because this is Max's database. So we'll go to our Firebase and we'll get the right URL that we need to be copying here. So I'll copy this. I will paste it in here. Perfecto, selecto, seat, ejecto. I love an ejector seat. So then now we have our real URL from our database that we're actually communicating with, which is just a database I set up on Firebase. It's totally free. You can just go in there and use it. So that's really handy. And we can see our card here, which we already have created. When did that get populated? Let's just delete. Let's see what Max does first. Okay, so Max is telling us to copy something. Okay. Okay, cool. So at the moment we have this fetch response being sent to the backend. It's a push. So what that means is we are putting something onto the backend, aka this is saving some information to the backend. If we wanted to get information back from the backend, first of all, we'd have to have something there. So by putting it there, then we can get it back again. If it was just empty, you know, it won't be able to find information if there's nothing there. So we're putting something up onto the Firebase backend in our cart table. And then we have this method. If it was a get, when we wanted to get something, we don't need to pass this extra object at all. We can just give it the URL because then it defaults to getting information back. So that's all well and good. Now, what we want to do is manage error handling and something else. Yeah, we need to handle the response. We need to say what's actually going to happen when we get back this information, not when we get back the information. When we've successfully put the information up on the database, we get a response back saying, okay, that was a success, or no, it wasn't a success. So we need to actually manage that, because if it wasn't a success, we're going to want to give an error message and say, sorry, something's up with that, you know, we can't add that to the database. And if it was a success, we want to say item successfully added to the cart, no problems, you know, we've got your item in the database, that's all gravy, baby. So we need to add all that, because at the moment all we are doing is we just have a fetch. So we're going to handle all the rest of that now. And Max is saying that in order to handle this better, in the UI folder, he has provided us with a notification component, which isn't in here yet. So I'll go to the end, Suboptimal. Oh, see how much detail Max goes into. He has provided a suboptimal example. So, you want the optimal example? Code along. You want to see how you could do it suboptimally? Stay tuned, because he'll tell you. So I'll copy both of these. These need to be moved. Well, I'll just copy them. I won't move them. I'll copy and I'll paste in here, because we are going to use these. He has provided these for our use. So let's have a little look at what they are, and then we will worry about this. Okay, so this is a notification component that's been created. We're taking in props, and what we're doing is we'll say the status of the prop coming in, and so basically we'll pass in an object, I think, called, we'll pass in a status, and it'll have a value of either error or success. So if we do indeed have an error, we pass error into this component, so the status will be error, and then we can add these classes. So this is just a way of adding classes to our, like as in CSS classes, so we can style in the case of an error, and then also in the case of a success. So if it's all good, maybe we want to make it green. If there's an error, we want to make it red. And we can see here these special classes are then assigned to the CSS classes JSX evaluated string. So we put it in backticks so we can create a string out of this, but also create a string that we've passed JSX into. So by adding this $sign and classes.notification, what we're saying is whatever classes.notification is, which if we go into the module, so that's going to be our standard class we're applying. That's always going to be there. So notification is a background color. Well, maybe it's not always going to be there. I'll go back and look at the logic. But this is just styling. It's a particular style. So that's what we're saying. We're creating a component here that has different styles that are going to be evaluated. So this will evaluate to all of the classes to, well, no, it won't. Basically what will happen is this will be like this. So it'll be CSS classes is equal to, and just like if we had a normal string, and then it will be notification. So that's what the first one will evaluate to. And then the second one, special classes, will also be there. So special classes will either be classes.success or classes.error, right? So depending on whether we have passed in the prop of error or success, we will then add that class down here. So we can have classes.success or classes.error. And surely, why would that not have to be in? Can we just do it like that, like side by side with notification? So I'll try that actually after we're done. Rather than doing it like this, I'll hard code in notification and classes.success. Let's just do it right now and see what happens. So like this is looking like it's going to evaluate all in one line to this string. That's what I see. So let's add this down here and see how syntax highlighting. Yeah, so it mustn't evaluate like that then. Does it keep these? Or am I missing something? But basically, the long and short of it is we're going to add the notification class anyway. Look, I still understand what's going on, but I wonder how this is actually evaluating to get exactly what we want. So if someone knows, please tell me. I should just look into it and make a note of that. So okay, classes, cool. I made a note. So, and to figure that out and to let you guys know. So, basically we're going to be adding the notification class and then either classes success or classes.error, depending on what was passed in, which will come back from the response. And then down here we can see we're applying these classes to this section, which is what we're going to return back out, and this is going to be the title and the message. So the title and the message will be styled. They're wrapped in this section tag, which has the CSS classes, which is switching on and off from either an error class or a success class and a notification class. So we're going to have a notification that's going to be either successful, woohoo, we added your stuff to the database, or error, something's wrong, red, you know, green. That's what's going to happen. So I'll just comment this out because I still want to figure that out. So how does the above evaluate? How does the above So I just need to look into that, and then it'll click evaluate. Should really just click right now, but sure, look, sometimes that's not the way it goes. Evaluate, and that's okay. You know, I feel like things are clicking all the time, so I'm a step closer to the penny fully dropping now. And just once you're inching your way, you know, even if you're crawling, it's all good, guys. Just make your movements. Every small step is getting you up the mountain. That's the truth of it. So, great. So we have all that set up now. I'm 5 minutes over with all the waffle. But you know what we'll do very quickly? We'll just try and send something to our back end. And just see what happens. See if it comes in here. Why not? For the crack. I've no idea what to expect, but I'm okay with that. So let's add something to the cart. Okay, it's added. How do I even send something to the cart? So show cart. So to be honest, I don't even know what I'm supposed to do to send this to the cart. So I wonder if we still need to actually add that button as well. It looks like it. Let's just go to the cart here and check out what's going on in the cart. Cart button. Where's this cart button being used? My cart. That's this button. Okay, guys, I think we need to add the button to actually send this to the cart and use this fetch, because I don't see this hooked up to anything. This is just a use effect floating around. So for that reason, adios, si senora. I don't know what I'm saying, like just making words up, guys. Adios is real, but whatever the rest I said was not. But thank you so much for joining me here on another episode of 100 Days of Code with Lily Code. I appreciate it so much. I hope you have a wonderful day. Hope you had a laugh, and I hope you learned something as well. So look, keep yourself happy, safe, whatever, you know, get out and breathe some air and just enjoy your day. And thanks so much for joining me, and do like and subscribe if you like what you see. I'm only messing. Thanks very much. Bye.